All right, everybody, good evening. It is, what day is it? Oh my goodness, it is Wednesday, February 15th at 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful evening here at the First Alert Desk. We have our top 5 stories for you tonight, basically around the Atlanta metro area. Everything that you need to know as we head into the latter half of the week here. And we're just going to jump right in here because there are a lot of really important stories that we're covering, including one that's actually gotten nationwide attention. We're going to be talking here, this is actually the video that I want to play here, about a report released here in Fulton County. We are just hours away from getting new insight into whether former President Donald Trump and his allies tried to influence the 2020 election.
You are here today. We're going to try to make it as short of a day as possible. We'll try to ask questions that are not too intrusive while being a grand juror that can
Part of this special grand jury report is going to be released tomorrow.
It's not easy taking the time away from family and work and other.
So what we know right now is that there's going to be an intro part of the report, the conclusion, and then also a third part of that report, which is heavily redacted. We don't know what time this report is set to come out. We know that a lot of these details are likely going to be missing. This means that we're going to be speaking to a lot of experts. There's going to be a lot of people all across the country reading between the lines and analyzing about what's there, what's not there when they look at this report. Now, the most interesting information that you might see in the report might be what we're actually not seeing, you know, the parts that are heavily redacted here. We know that the information that is included is going to help DA Fani Willis here in Fulton County decide whether to pursue criminal charges for former President Donald Trump and his allies. Also, something I really want to note here is that whatever comes out in tomorrow's release is going to have serious implications for the 2024 election. Tomorrow we're going to bring you all the latest updates on the First Alert Desk. Also, we're going to bring you the updates live as we get them, but this is a huge breaking story, not just here in the Atlanta metro area, but again, all throughout the country, and something that we have been waiting for years now, as former President Donald Trump has really had a microscope on him and what he and his allies may or may not have done during that 2020 infamous election so many years ago. It's crazy to think that was 3 years ago now. Wow. All right, another story I want to talk about here. It's about a man who's very important to the Atlanta metro area. And if you are from the area, you, I'm sure, have heard of Thomas Dortch Jr. He is an icon for Atlanta. And unfortunately, we have learned that that icon, Thomas Dortch Jr., has died. Atlanta City Council made the announcement today. Dortch was known as the former national chairman of the 100 Black Men of America. He's also had several successful businesses, so if you're heavily involved in the business sphere here, you may have known him through that as well. We spoke to Councilmember Byron Amos, and Amos says, quote, "For more than 60 years, Tommy worked to improve the city's economic, educational, and youth initiatives with the goal of advancing equity for African Americans." This is really a huge loss for our community. We know that a lot of people really looked up to him, that he was a mentor to a lot of folks here in our community, and this is truly a huge loss. But, you know, as we always try to do whenever someone really notable in our area passes away, we try to remember their legacy and all of the impact that they've had here. And Thomas Dortch Jr. certainly left behind quite an impact in our area. All right, third story I want to talk about tonight. This is something I think is just so interesting. I wonder if you've heard of no-knock warrants. How much you know about them? Well, on a basic level, a no-knock warrant allows law enforcement to enter property without immediate prior notification of residents. So, for example, they don't have to knock or ring a doorbell. But now, a new police practice, that police practice is under a serious microscope here, thanks to some new legislation. No-knock warrants can be used whenever officers feel like it's necessary to catch a suspect off guard, but a new bill on the Georgia State Senate floor would actually make it harder for law enforcement to get these types of warrants. So if this bill were to pass, before a search, the bill would require more proof a no-knock warrant is needed. It would also need approval from the agency's top official, and then a superior court judge would also need to sign off on that warrant. Officers would need to wear body cameras while serving the warrant. No-knock warrants face criticism oftentimes from a variety of people for a variety of reasons, maybe for being too dangerous for the officers having to serve them, another criticism that we hear a lot is that they are too intrusive for the people who they are serving them to. So overall, a lot of people very divided on no knock warrants, and we could see some major developments in just the next several weeks as lawmakers discuss what the best route is to go forward with this. As we learn more and as lawmakers continue to make those decisions, we of course will keep you updated here on Atlanta News First. All right, fourth story for tonight. Anyone who has a child, you're going to think this is pretty interesting here. School dress codes are always a point of, I don't want to say controversy, but people do get fired up about a good old student school dress code. Students at a DeKalb County school now calling on district leaders to actually rewrite its dress code policy. They say it targets girls and students of color. The dress code right now says no ripped jeans, no visible undergarments, no short skirts, and no politically or socially controversial words. And these students who are unhappy say that the problem here is how that policy is unfairly enforced. In a recent school board meeting, several Lakeside High School students called on district leaders to rewrite the dress code policy. They say that it's not just about how the code is written, but actually how it's enforced, and it really targets minorities and women and non-binary students. We also spoke with Richard Rose. He is the president of the Atlanta NAACP. And Rose says he views the dress code as a great equalizer. So maybe it's not such a bad thing. We also heard from the DeKalb County School District. They gave us a statement saying, in part, the student dress code is reviewed annually to include public feedback to improve its application, effectiveness, and fairness. And the overarching goals remain the same. The student dress code is to be applied to all students regardless of gender or race and is intended to promote safe and appropriate learning environments. This is going to be something that is going to be really interesting to follow here. I think that it's almost every year now, not that we hear about this issue in DeKalb County schools specifically, but at least the time that I've been in Atlanta, we've heard of different districts and different schools within the districts raising complaints very similar to this one. So as we follow this situation and learn if there's going to be a resolution, what district leaders might do or how they might react, we'll continue to bring you all of those latest updates again on Atlanta News First. All right, and my final story for tonight, I really wanted to leave you guys with something positive and optimistic, which is why I'm choosing this one here. And I think that anyone who has been downtown Atlanta can look forward to what we might see here in the coming years. A part of downtown Atlanta, mostly abandoned right now, you're looking at it right here, could soon undergo a huge transformation. This land that's in this video here, it's off Forsyth Street in Southwest Atlanta. Right now, only a bail bondsman and other graffiti decorated buildings like this one on your screen are sitting there currently. However, Invest Atlanta, that's an economic development agency within city government, they want to talk with potential developers to submit plans for the property. Pretty cool, isn't it? This whole area could have a major makeover. Blueprints for mixed use like apartments and retail space would be all in the mix here. Atlanta News spoke with a nonprofit that advocates for things like this, and they shared what it could do for the downtown area, basically offering a lot of optimism and hope for some of the possibilities here. The city does own other lots in the area, and Invest Atlanta is having a workshop tomorrow so these developers can learn more about different opportunities in the city. I think if you have the chance to go downtown Atlanta, if you've been down there, driven down there at all, you will notice that there are some areas that just have so much potential, and seeing and hearing that some of our leaders are working to make these areas a little bit more useful to you and I think that's really exciting, and this is going to be a really fun story to see progress over the coming months and years. And of course, as always, I feel like I said this after every story, but it's so true. We'll keep you updated here on Atlanta News First. All right, I'm going to turn now to a live look outside. Look at this. Very dark night, traffic moving pretty smoothly, and here in Atlanta, you know, we have had a mix of the good, the bad, and actually not too much ugly. I feel like it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, but now it's really just the good and the bad with the little rain.
Maybe not ugly. What's a softer word? The good, the bad, and the bad, the kind of muggy, gloomy. A little gross.
Yeah.
We had some of that action today. And hey, good evening. I'm First Alert meteorologist Cutter Martin here to give you a check of the First Alert forecast on Atlanta News First Plus. And we will start with radar. First Alert to live radar right now. We are tracking rain moving in from the south and west. Showers are very spotty, so it's nothing that's going to soak any evening plans nonetheless. we do have a little bit of moisture out there, kind of a drizzle, we'll call it. A couple of light rain showers in the forecast. Let's zoom down and show you a tighter look at Metro Atlanta. It's South DeKalb right now, seeing the light rain pushing into the Stonecrest area and kind of other portions of maybe central DeKalb County. And as we go deeper into Gwinnett County, we have a couple of these showers moving from southwest to north and east. Now, as we go through the night, your rain chance remains fairly low. Rain chances kind of capped at 10 to 20% this evening. I think most folks will avoid the rain. Nonetheless, technically, there is a chance of some showers back in there overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Let's play out that graphic for you, kind of the forecast showing the gloom there. There's that 10 to 20% chance of a shower. Winding down, though, kind of a lull in that chance of rain after about 4 a.m., so 5, 6, 7. We have the clouds, maybe some patchy dense fog, but we are dry out the door tomorrow morning. For the most part, that chance of a shower is very, very low. And hey, tomorrow morning is going to be pretty mild. Temperatures back in the low to mid 50s north and east side. You can kind of see that cooler air. We'll kind of draw out the shading here and notice how right along the 75 corridor, points east of there are cooler and points to the west of there are a little warmer. We have some cool air kind of sliding down the spine of the Appalachians, a little wedge of chilly air. You may have heard that term used before here on Atlanta News First. And it's building into the east side of town, so a little cooler there on the east side, Gwinnett, DeKalb counties, Rockdale County, on down to Henry County, up to North Fulton. But if you live in Cobb County, definitely Douglas County and southern Fulton County, especially the southwest side of Atlanta, on down that Fulton Industrial Parkway stretch, temperatures more likely to be in the mid to upper 50s. And from there, notice how it is cooler, maybe some 40s up in the Toccoa area, Toccoa Falls, Clayton, Rabun County, on into the upstate of South Carolina. So blues on the map, so temperatures in the upper 40s. But closer to 60 down in LaGrange, so a mild start tomorrow morning. Dog walk forecast, not too bad. Again, could be a little spritz of a shower, but that is about it in the forecast tomorrow. And not forecasting much of any measurable rain out the door in the morning, though there could be an isolated shower or two. More clouds than sun. Keep that in mind. It's certainly going to look like it's about to rain at any moment. Here is that hour-by-hour forecast. And a reminder, if you have any weather questions, comments, concerns, we are live right now on a few different social media platforms, including on Facebook and on YouTube. The accounts to follow: Atlanta News First. So those are kind of your places to be. And again, you can watch right here, Atlanta News First on Facebook and Atlanta News First on YouTube Live. There is that forecast, though. Sandy smiling regardless. This was sent in by Frank Pratt. Going to be dealing with some moisture out the door in the morning. I think maybe drizzle, a couple of spotty showers, but the chance of heavy rain tomorrow morning is near zero. Tomorrow afternoon, again, we are tracking a first alert, but there is some nicer weather to be had tomorrow. Maybe looking gloomy, but at least it's warm. And there are some dry periods tomorrow. There is some dry time. Temperature of 73, that's your peak number in Smyrna. 74 East Point, 72 in Douglasville, Estelle 72, City of South Fulton 73. North Fulton probably a little bit cooler in the lower 70s, mid-70s, Decatur, Atlanta, Marietta, Gwinnett, DeKalb counties. The further north and east you head tomorrow afternoon, the closer to 70 you will be. Meanwhile, to the south and west, temperatures are going to be a little bit milder, maybe mid-70s, Atlanta and points south and east. Here is that hour-by-hour forecast, that first alert coming on as we get into the evening. Rain is already falling in Atlanta by 7 to 8 p.m. Keep in mind if you live on the west side, Carrollton, on down to Cleburne and Randolph counties in Alabama, LaGrange, Georgia, Rome, Georgia, Chattooga County, down through Floyd County, Heard County, Troup County, all of those areas, Carroll County as well. Rain could be falling as early as dinner time. So first alert, notice that just below the time clock there. And that first alert continues through the overnight hours, 9, 10, 11, midnight. Bands of heavy rain moving through. Risk of severe weather is relatively low locally. I think that chance is greatest along the state line. So from Carrollton to Rome, to Wedowee, Alabama, there in Randolph County, LaGrange, Georgia. Chance of a couple storms producing wind gusts 60 to 65. Very heavy rain, maybe an isolated tornado. That risk is very low, but can't completely rule it out. More on that in just a second. But the big thing here is that risk of heavy rain through 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. These downpours will be putting down rainfall rates 2 to 3 inches an hour in a couple of spots. It may not persist over one spot for an entire hour, so you may not rack up 3 inches in 1 hour, but the rate of rainfall could be equal to 2 to 3 inches an hour. And that's certainly this time of year with many plants, trees still dormant. It's going to run off quickly. There is that potential for some heavy rain in the forecast, maybe some minor street flooding. Good news, though, for the drive into work. We are clearing out, cooling off, and drying out as we get into the morning rush. 6, 7, 8 a.m., a quick improvement in that forecast. On to the risk of severe weather against storm threats late tonight into late tomorrow night, and early Friday. There is an elevated risk, low to moderate, of significant lightning, vivid lightning, the kind that wakes you up at night, maybe knocks out power to a couple of folks. Within those storms, not everyone sees that frequent lightning, but with the heavier downpours, it's possible a low risk of wind, a very low risk of an isolated tornado or two, mainly west of the state line into portions of Alabama. Risk of heavy rain is there, though moderate. Certainly doesn't take too much to flood some of our typical trouble spots across metro Atlanta. So we're going to be watching for that potential. The good news, though, in that 7-day forecast is wrapping up Friday early in the day, perhaps even the morning commute sees some decent drying. If anything, with any luck, fingers crossed, we can get the storms in and out a little earlier. There's that potential for certainly still some ponding of water on roadways, maybe still draining off, maybe still some damp conditions that you're commuting in, but I think the bulk of the rain is well east of metro Atlanta as we get into the heart of the morning rush. Temperatures don't warm much Friday afternoon. In fact, they will fall through the afternoon. Friday afternoon spent in the 40s. It'll be windy. We're going to break out into some sunshine, so a very wintry day with a widespread freeze, upper 20s, lower 30s, metro Atlanta. Saturday morning, a freezing start, low to mid 20s elsewhere. So definitely a cold start to the weekend, but we managed 50 Saturday afternoon, 60s Sunday afternoon, and we're shooting up to near 70 on our Monday with mid to upper 70s. And the forecast as we get into the middle of next week. So certainly still some warm weather to be had. And we're not completely done with the cold either. We have both in the 7-day forecast. And a reminder, our 9 o'clock newscast here would normally start in about 42 minutes. It's being preempted by the Atlanta United game. We do apologize. That was a great game to watch. Feel free to watch it on Peachtree TV. And that will preempt our 9 o'clock newscast. We're on around 10 p.m. for you. Also an 11 o'clock half-hour full forecast, latest news headlines. We have you covered. And remember, if you are ever away from the TV, AtlantaNewsFirst.com and the First Alert Weather app, Atlanta News First app as well. All good tools if you're away from the TV and still need, as you probably do, your latest news and weather headlines. We'll leave you with a live look of the top end of the perimeter, Georgia 400 and 285. It is gloomy outside, but relatively dry right now. Again, reminder, first alert storms moving in tomorrow evening. Heavy rain, that chance of some gusty storms as well lingering into early Friday morning. Full forecast coming up here in just a few minutes on Atlanta News First.